A clash. You know me by my bumper music. I am Kurt Schlichter, noted trial lawyer, retired Army colonel, senior columnist at Town Hall, and kind of a fanboy. I'm kind of in awe here because one of the premier lawyers of our generation is joining us. It's General Mike Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell. Sidney, how did you become the go-to attorney for people who are victimized by a corrupt federal law enforcement establishment?
I guess it's because of my book, License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice, where I just had to do my best as a lawyer and citizen to let people know what I was seeing in our corrupt prosecutorial system.
Now, normally I would ask you, have you ever seen anything like the atrocity that's been inflicted upon a patriot like General Mike Flynn? But the fact that you wrote a book about atrocities being inflicted on American citizens, this tells me it is a systemic problem.
It is a systemic problem, but this is by far and away the worst I have seen because it involves so many of the upper echelon of the DOJ and the FBI and the intelligence community.
Look, I'm an attorney, Sidney Powell. I mostly do civil litigation and not criminal, although I grew up in a family where a mother was a prosecutor and then a judge. I was with my mom this weekend, and she is staggered by the outrageous nature of what Judge Sullivan has done, what the Department of Justice has done until it made its 180-degree turn. She's telling me this would never be tolerated when I was a young prosecutor. What happened? Where did we go wrong?
I've seen it getting increasingly worse over the past 20 years. When I first identified it was around 2000, 2001, when the Enron task force prosecutors were handpicked. People like Michael Chertoff and Bob Mueller and Larry Thompson, because they were known as terrorists of prosecutors. Well, that's not what a prosecutor is supposed to be. I mean, yes, you're supposed to be tough, but I believed in the Robert H. Jackson version of a prosecutor who is supposed to temper his zeal with kindness and reality and decency. We've lost all of that. It became a game of notching your belt with, high-powered CFOs and CEOs and see who you can, quote, take down, end quote, instead of seeking justice.
Well, let's move on to the case of General Mike Flynn. And one of the advantages of the Hugh Hewitt radio program is we have a fairly sophisticated audience. They know many of the facts, and they know much of the lingo that we throw around. So if we mention the phrase en banc, which I intend to, our folks are generally going to know about that. But let's start out at the most basic point. A lot of people colloquially use the term entrapment about what happened with General Flynn. Do you think that's a fair term to apply?
No, it's worse than entrapment. He was completely framed. The FBI modified the 302, the FBI report of the interview of him, to add things he did not say, and they did not include in it things he did say that would have shown he was telling the truth.
Sidney Powell, are you saying that the FBI... Wow, I'm staggered. You're saying that the FBI manufactured evidence and ignored or actually suppressed exculpatory evidence in an official document, which is an official statement, and I believe subject to criminal prosecution if you make false statements on it.
Yes, that's
Holy
exactly
cow.
what they did.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a very serious charge, Sidney Powell. Do you see any justice coming for this?
I believe so. I believe the case will be dismissed with prejudice, as the government has requested. It may take obviously it's going to start in the D.C. Circuit because we have a petition for mandamus pending to instruct the judge to do just that. And his response is due today, and the government was invited to file a response if it wanted to, and I would expect it would do that today, probably later today. But yes, I think the D.C. Circuit will apply the law properly and hold him to it.
Well, let's go through this. You expect the Department of Justice to accept the invitation of the D.C. Circuit and file a response. I don't see how they couldn't. So you're expecting that, and you'll see it today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you will also will we see, because I think the order was the order from the District Court of Appeal, or I'm sorry, District of Columbia Court of Appeals, seemed a little vague to me. Do you think Mr. Gleason, who is the bizarrely appointed amicus counsel for the judge, do you think he will file a separate response, separate from the judge's own response?
No, he was not invited to do that.
And do you think he will anyway?
I think if he did, he would be wasting his time and it would be bounced.
Does that is it telling that the Court of Appeal did not ask him to file an amicus brief?
I think it is. I think the order that the D.C. Circuit entered was almost an order to show cause why Judge Sullivan shouldn't be held in contempt himself.
Look, I'm a trial lawyer. I litigate in federal courts. Again, I do civil stuff. I have had in 25 years one vaguely similar situation. There, a trial court judge made a bizarre and manifestly wrong ruling. The Court of Appeal kind of said, well, we're going to give you 10 days to think about it. And I got a call the next day from the judge's clerk on, there's been a giant misunderstanding. Of course we're going to fix it. Why has Judge Sullivan doubled down, gone and hired his own counsel, who's being paid for by who knows who, to actually respond to this instead of doing what is manifestly the right thing and dismissing the case as requested by all the parties?
Well, for some time, I've been increasingly concerned that he was just not rational when it came to this case. And it looks like it's coming to the ultimate fruition. I've just never seen a judge do such a 180 from his conduct in the Ted Stevens case, where he held the government responsible for not producing exculpatory evidence. And here he's gone out of his way to protect the government from having to do that and to persecute and continue the persecution of General Flynn.
And in fact, the Department of Justice has joined you by asking that because of the manifest prosecutorial misconduct, this case be dismissed. I find this stunning.
It is stunning, and it's completely contradictory to binding Supreme Court precedent and very clear precedent of the D.C. Circuit.
Well, you would think that Judge Sullivan would take the hint because they cited Fokker, F-O-K-K-E-R, and the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure right there, basically inviting the judge, hey, tell us why these don't apply if you can.
Yeah, well, ironically, he cited both those things too when he issued his order and then appointed the amicus to take the position of a prosecutor in the case. So I don't know what's going on with Judge Sullivan. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Just out of curiosity, who is paying the attorney he asked to prepare his response to the Court of Appeal?
I understand from a reference somebody sent me that the taxpayers are.
Oh, lucky us. Okay. Now he's going to respond. The Department of Justice is going to respond. You're closer to the case, but from an outside point of view, I think that we're going to see by 2-1 or 3-0 a ruling in favor of dismissing this prosecution. Is there some way Judge Sullivan can ask for an en-banc review by the entire Court of Appeal, which is highly it's majority Democrat and could very well go the opposite direction? Is there any procedural way to get en-banc review? En banc?
Yes. I mean, the party can always request en banc.
But who's the party? Because General Flynn's a party, and the Department of Justice, representing the people of the United States, is a party. How's the judge a party?
Well, because he was invited to file a reply, and he is essentially the person who is being instructed to do something here.
Wow. A district court has standing to ask for en banc review of a... my mind is boggling.
I'm not positive about that, but I would think it would probably be true.
Wow.
I've never seen it happen before, but then there's a lot that's happened in this case that I've never seen happen before.
Well, you know, when I was doing my civil procedure studying for my civil procedure finals in law school, I was literally on the streets of Los Angeles with the 160th Infantry during the Los Angeles riots. So maybe I missed the part about a judge being able to seek review of an order that both of the parties to the actual dispute don't want. Wow.
Right.
If there is en banc review,
I could be wrong on that. I mean, I could certainly be wrong, but my guess is it would be available.
Holy cow. That would not have been my guess. But again, you are much closer to this, and I assume that you have done, you and your crack team have done a lot of research on it. I got to hand it to you, Sidney Powell. You took a case where a large, famous law firm from Washington handled it disastrously. You are in Dallas. You are not a D.C. insider. You took on the entire establishment for a American hero who was wronged. We have about 15 seconds. How do you see this ending?
General Flynn will be exonerated. He was honest with the agents, and we have the truth on our side.
Sidney Powell, thank you from our entire audience. You are a warrior for justice, and that's no exaggeration. I think that's the only way to characterize you. Thank you so much. My regards to General Flynn from a retired colonel. I usually don't like generals. I like him. This is the Hugh